In December of 2020, the Discord user Liam Nichols sent a message that would change everything.
Hey boys, what if we play Minecraft on a new world?
This one message created a monster, an epic saga complete with lying, cheating, hacking, globe-spanning wars, a lawsuit for war crimes, and 12 Minecraft servers spanning 4 long years. To most, this would seem scripted, but I assure you, it was not. This is the insane years-long history of the Comb SMP.
Our collab stream with Quinn, why didn't you just use that account? Did you? Oh,
After that initial feeler and some communications on setup, the earliest rendition of Comb SMP opened in early 2021. Yeah, technically this was the first version of Comb SMP. This is the only video we have, a live stream. And the lore gets crazy even this far back. Season 0, the prototype world created by Mythical, wasn't even called Comb SMP at the time, and only later was it added to the lore.
If I'm thinking of the original one where it was on the realm and it was like super foggy and we had no coordinates, but yeah, that one was pretty chaotic.
Minecraft was much different then, starting at around 1.16.5. The Nether had just been revitalized from the useless void it was in 1.15 and prior, and the Y level of bedrock was still at 0, which would lead to many odd problems later down the line. The world was actually called Mythica Realm, as the official name wouldn't be changed until much later. Still, a lot of buzz was happening on the server, and some of our core factions had started taking shape. The SMP's main alliance, the one which stood strong and always persevered, was the Pumpkin Society. This faction promised its members peace, prosperity, and the development of an industrial society. Led by Quinn, one of the best players early on and with a knack for building farms. Its regulars were Infinite, a great builder and expansionist. Troy's Movies Gaming, a rising star especially in later seasons. And Luminous, the Society's diplomatic mastermind. These 4 then worked with the various minor parties to expand their influence further. No matter how beaten or bruised its members got, the Society would always bounce back. Opposed to them was a rotating door of dark horse crypts, hoping to one day break the Society's dominance. Their goals were never aligned. Some wanted to destroy the server, instilling anarchism and infighting to the world for personal gain, while others wanted to simply restore prestige and rule the server for themselves. The main enemy was usually Sir Mythical YT, always online and deadly in PvP, and fairly convincing diplomatically too. With decent allies, he's a force to be reckoned with. But to break the Society solo, he turned to more unconventional means of victory.
I'm going back towards our base, and then all of a sudden I see a floating name tag, so I crouch. I barge inside the house, and then next thing you know, I see Mythical flying in creative mode, placing melons all over the floor of our house.
Mythical had trolled the Pumpkin Society by griefing them and placing melons all across their base, essentially abusing his powers as admin of the server. Understandably, many were not happy with this.
If you're gonna cheat in a season 0 world or like a test world, then that just kind of shows the true colors of your intentions.
Like both of us were just kind of like, yeah, what do we do from here, mate?
As I said, this server was just a short test world for Realms, so everyone quickly forgave and forgot of Mythical's trolling in Season 0. Besides, it was just for fun on a test world, not for real malicious purposes. Afterwards, Quinn hosted the first official Comb SMP season, and it was unbelievably fun.
Season 1 was definitely one of the most fun seasons I've played. Definitely, I'm gonna say top 3 all time. So learning everything and hanging out with Quinn, Liam, everyone else, it was just a really fun experience.
We even found an insane glitched mob, a drowned holding a pillager flag.
Couldn't see
A
it.
drowned zombie has a pillager flag on it. What?
What?
That's not possible. That's not possible right there, Troy. And this actually had a lot of, I guess you could say lore-based stuff. Even though this is not even written up, this is just like where the hell happens.
This is all that I got.
We even had an end fight, and since Troy was new to Minecraft and didn't know how large the spawn platform was, the funniest clip ever emerged from that.
We have no blocks!
Tries!
I still fell off the map, dude.
I have no
Oh my god,
blocks!
Snugly.
Midway through the server, though, it was clear a world just wouldn't cut it. So Mythical and Quinn came to an agreement to transfer the ownership of the world in exchange for hosting it on a paid realm.
With Mythical, we had it on a realm. He was the owner of it, and I gave him permission to run the world because at the time I was on Bedrock and I'd have to manually join. I got the copy of the world, which was a part of our agreement. Every week or so, I'd get a world download of the world.
This agreement seemed fair. While Mythical now had ownership of the world, the speed and convenience of the realm for Bedrock players made it well worth it. Everything was looking good, and the server was gaining popularity quickly, with Troy making videos consistently.
Hey guys, it's Joe from Joe's Movies, and today we're doing Comb SMP episode 5.
And others like Quinn and Mythical occasionally making SMP content.
This is my world, where I'm just like, you know, we're videoing this. We're gonna kill the Ender Dragon.
It seemed converting the world into a realm was the best decision at the time. But little did we know that one rash decision would cause it all to fall apart in a matter of days. Sir Mythical YT started hosting Mr. Beast-style mini challenges that he would later upload on his YouTube channel. At first, these just seemed like fun little challenges, but as time went on, SMP members grew suspicious.
Welcome to Mythical's Casino. Let's go.
The rewards he would give for these challenges were often too good to be true. Stacks of diamond, netherite, and emerald blocks every time. One could only wonder how many he really had in his ender chest and how long it took him to get it. The Society launched a huge spying operation to find out more, and a few days later, Infinite sent back this screenshot that changed everything.
I was passing by Mythical Space and I knew there was nothing in there, but I thought I'd take a look anyway. I saw that inside of his wall there was a tunnel, and it led up to all of these shulker boxes. These have to be from Mythical's end chest. Quickly took a screenshot of it and took it off.
The extent of this wealth was unreasonable, as this and other screenshots showed several shulker boxes worth of stuff. Suddenly, the Pumpkin Society had grown angry, afraid of Mythical's sudden position of economic power, so they ran some calculations, which proved he used cheats.
Alright, I gotta get 100 sand as possible, or as fast as possible. That took me 16 seconds to get that sand, alright? So that means he would alone have spent 4,480 hours just collecting sand.
After the cheats were discovered, a recent world file was obtained, as part of the prior specified agreement with Mythical. Then, after undeniably confirming his use of cheats, they exposed Mythical on the spot.
You can explore. I know you use cheats. I had Quinn the other day checking to put like /give in the chat and see if the cheats are turned on or not. And it was.
Because of Mythical's cheating scandal, hyperinflation occurred, which, as Quinn said,
essentially ruining the economy for netherite and making gold and iron worth more than netherite.
And because of this, no one was interested in playing anymore. The solution would take almost 9 months. Comb SMP Season 2. Mythical had long since canceled his realm, so Season 2 was hosted on the free host server manhunt, a controversial decision that we'll get back to later. Still, everyone was excited for the SMP to be back after so long. We all excitedly joined the server for 1 episode, only to find a problem. Out of nowhere, Mythical was getting filthy rich again. So much time had passed since Season 1 that we all assumed Mythical would change his cheating ways. But that was seemingly untrue. While suspicions were already high, things were about to get blown open as the evidence revealed itself in the funniest way.
He was hosting again, but it was like on like manhunt or something, and we had like it was like an anarchy server. Me and Mythical, we had like a whole clan and everything, if I'm correct. And we were like, we were going to go, and the next he literally caught himself in 4K. That was like the highlight of it.
After this third cheating scandal, the Society's hand was forced. A new server, Season 3, was made, which for once put the two teams on an even playing field, since this server was run by Quinn, and only Quinn, which made Mythical very nervous. Quickly after losing his once proud wealth and fearing reprisal for his previous actions, he radicalized, and after gathering some gear, an all-out war would begin. The war started out swinging, as Mythical and the Society directly fought. Everyone knew Mythical was the king of PvP solo, but could he take on an entire team?
I'm following him. I can't run for long.
I see him. Yo, he's right in front of me. Get him.
Dude, okay.
It's negative 700. Negative.
He's running.
Hurry, we got Mythical.
We got Mythical.
He killed him, but he killed Quinn, but like he got.
Hurry, dude. How far are you?
I'm coming. I'm at negative 700 right now.
Oh my god.
Mythical was demolishing even multiple members at once. He was helped, though, by the fact that not much of backup armor and tools had been gained yet. Every time he killed them, they only became weaker. Until...
Oh my god.
What? I got kicked!
Bro, your server is so loud.
You know what's cool? I actually got all that stuff I lost back.
Wait, what? Oh my god! The star! It's back up! Oh my god, control!
Bro!
What happened?
The server saved us!
The server had been rolled back by 4 hours. The Society had its best gear back, and Mythical would have to beat them all over again. At this point, he decided it wasn't worth it to beat them down twice, even if he very well could have. Still, this confrontation was very close to disaster for the Pumpkin Society, and Mythical wasn't shy to threaten doing it again.
So I wanna talk to him, because as one of the most powerful people in PvP, like, we start war.
After the initial battles, a small period of détente would commence, as the focus of the war shifted to diplomacy. Since Season 2, several new players had joined the SMP, like HJY3, Pawkix, and Commander Lack, among many others. These new recruits would bolster both sides' pride and confidence in winning the war.
It's gonna be a 1v9, bro, like...
Well, you see, one is a hacker, We call him the hacker because he's extremely good at Minecraft. He's been playing Minecraft for 10 years.
Another important aspect was privacy and security. Both teams had made new secret bases to obscure their actions and loot from the other. However, soon enough, Mythical found himself prepared and struck the society again. This time, he struck the society's wallets, their massive treasury of loot.
I think it was, so you, me, Quinn, Liam, and Luminous. We built a base in a hill, and then we were in VC with Mythical one time, right? He found our base. He found our giant potato farm or whatever it was, underground. And so now we're panicking.
After this, they knew they needed to get far away and commenced an effort to transfer anything they could as far away as they could.
Hawkix and his team had a base not too far from us. And we were allied with Hawkix. So ultimately we end up moving to Hawkix's base. Mythical found Hawkix's base as well. To protect ourselves, we moved 100,000 blocks away, in which everyone made it except for me. Well, I never made it there, I never saw the base.
But Mythical's ever-present threats, and the fact that he was winning in every conceivable department, led the society to do something a bit radical. In retribution for all the attacks, exposing of private information, and most of all, prior cheating, Season 3 ended, and Mythical was banned from the next one, Season 4. While SMP Seasons 4 and 5 were both merely stopgaps to work on something grander, the banning of Mythical from these short seasons was a huge symbolic victory for the society. At least for now. With the loss of their leader and all of their wealth from Season 3, and the succeeding seasons being hosted and closely monitored by Quinn and Infinite respectively, his nation, the Comrades, swiftly collapsed too. The SMP members were uncertain about the fragile state of Seasons 4 and 5. Both seasons had multiple problems. Issues like the debate over host platform generally being unremarkable, and disagreements between the members. The expectations were not high after these two seasons, due to them being so short and convoluted. Everyone was hoping to just have fun and play peacefully again. As more members joined, the community grew, but after the devastation of Season 3, and with Seasons 4 and 5 being so short and unremarkable, the sense of fun, community, and atmosphere from Season 1 had all but faded. The end of Season 5 was coming near, and members were expecting yet another new season. But behind the scenes, Quinn had been working relentlessly on a grand new project, spending hours to bring back Season 1 and converting it into a cross-play world. Not all was well, of course. There would be some issues with the world after transfer, including generation issues.
This is so weird!
And quite a bit of lag, which Quinn attempted to remove by genociding the villagers in his trading hall.
0.7. 20. Drew music plays. 19.5.
No, my head is bad.
5.1. 1.9.
So much arthritis in my hands.
1.8. With the Doom music blasted.
The villager, that area was basically near the pumpkin farm area, in which we were working on that at that time. It was a bunch of, we're talking hundreds of villagers above or under a iron farm. So even if I wanted iron, we couldn't do that.
But that didn't matter. The server was the most fun it's ever been, and we made some awesome memories. But a short ways in, something quite controversial happened. Mythical was unbanned again for this season, but members had not forgotten his rogue actions of the past. As soon as he was unbanned in episode 6, members of the Pumpkin Society decided to, no joke, take Mythical to court and sue him for his actions.
Alright, so I would like everyone to be quiet while the video finishes up, and I will go back and rip out the time from this.
The trial was scheduled for July 7th in the Pumpkin Society courthouse. This historic building had existed since season 1 and was being used as a meeting house in that era. Since Quinn had overseen the balancing of the economy after the fallout, it was decided that he would act as a neutral judge for the case. A nonpartisan jury was selected to cast the final vote. Infinite and Luminous were the Society's lawyers, whereas Butchies, a newer member of the SMP, would defend Mythical. Both parties prepared and collected as much evidence as possible before that fateful day. The Pumpkin Society officially cited Mythical for illegal griefing, criminal threats, and 3 counts of hacking from Season 1, Season 2, and even Season 0. Then Infinite slammed down evidence left and right, from the physical items to impossible figures, inconsistent settings, and even picture and video evidence. Mythical tried to justify his hacking by claiming his brother downloaded hacks for 2BGT, but the story was suspicious as he had previously claimed it was a virus that made him automatically mine netherite. His team put together this presentation to make a case for himself, and the first break of the case was called. After this break, though, Mythical literally was fighting his lawyer in the courtroom.
Okay, butt cheese. Stop it. Last time, if I just say.
And so Quinn had to shut down the server, and we just used a VC.
And they have screenshots. They shall be used. But if you don't believe them, I will open the server back up so for live, up-to-date screenshots if need be.
After a long time, the jury came to a vote. In a 1-3 decision, the jury decided Mythical was guilty as charged. He was to accept full responsibility for his actions, make armor and tools as compensation for his economic damage, and would be banned from entering any lands owned by the Pumpkin Society without approval. After the case, things slowed down for a while. Negotiations concluded, but as one last act of defiance, Mythical, or one of his allies, stole a lot of the Society's best gear.
Oh, where the fuck? My armor just disappeared. It just disappeared.
Dude, did we just get robbed? Nah.
Luminous, should I check my chest?
Yeah. Although there was no evidence that it was Mythical who stole the items, it was more than likely that he was behind the operation. Although Mythical made a casino later on in the episode, so at least we could win some of it back. Not a lot happened after that, until Butchies, Mythical's previous lawyer, dropped this bombshell.
We are discussing about money.
Hey.
It's gonna change the SMP significantly. So we're talking about like using.
No, don't tell him. I feel like either it should come from one person or it should come from all of us. Because one person can make sure that there's no counterfeit.
That would have been crazy. I think there would have been a lot of counterfeiting. I already know Mythical would have been trying to make his own counterfeit money somehow, however that may be.
However, the backlash was so great that he could not go through with it.
We don't have a lot to spend it on. What, like 4 things? Like,
What if you just like signed a bunch of currency off and then just kept it in like a sugar box for yourself?
If people don't believe the currency it has value, like it has no value.
Which led him down a rash path. While the Society was building new bases, mining for netherite, and creating a massive trading hall, Butchies radicalized. He couldn't gain anything legally, couldn't get economic power, and his threats were not taken seriously by the top players. So he decided to go out with a bang, taking out the leader of the Pumpkin Society in an assassination plot.
For me, I have yet to realize the threat I was about to be in. I turn away, throw that out, boom. Strength and speed. He runs over, gets a nice hit on me, and then I fly the hell out of there. They're trying not to die.
After this, the Society got very uneasy and started pressuring Mythical and the Potato Empire at large about the compensation demanded in court.
You have it, why don't you just give it and get it over with?
Well, because I'm in the Nether, I have priorities too, man. Like,
bro, I would have thought getting something over with that was like simple boom boom done in and out.
Mythical made several delays on this and was getting increasingly annoyed. But after several duping glitches, he conceded. Quinn and Mythical met up at the casino to sign the deal away.
okay, well, this shulker box is not included. This is the shulker box with all the stuff. And this is crucial.
I'll put this on a shoulder box.
Finally, balance was seemingly restored as we got into the back half of Season 1.5. We stocked up on shulker boxes and made this really cool Worlds Collide build with a nether portal and end portal. But the peace was not to last. The Potato Empire had tried and tried to take the Society down, but on the battlefield, in court, in economics, and even through an assassination attempt, nothing was working. So for them, it was all or nothing. A plan was drafted to blow up the entire server, destroying everyone in a brutal scorched earth maneuver. However, a mythical small and weak force clearly couldn't pull it off alone. They hoped that Luminous would join the plot as a double agent, but he snitched.
He's gonna blow up the whole pumpkin society and spam a bunch of withers in the season finale, right? And then also, before the season finale, he's gonna have a war before he does that. He's gonna have, like, a war before the season finale.
The specific plan of starting a war first was interesting. At the time we believe he created these plans, a minor conflict had happened. Butchies got attacked and bombed by Infinite and Mythical, the seemingly unholy alliance. After failing to defend him in court, he, alongside Doggo, slowly shunned their former ally. Relations hadn't been great for a while, but Butchies, who was starting a new nation, was exceptionally weak. The two, alongside Doggo, planned another assassination. And unlike Butchies' own prior attempt, this one was successful. After killing him, the trio blew up his base and took all of his items. But whether that was done to get him more wealth, distract the Society, or to try and spark a larger war, the plans of the Society didn't change. Their mindset was thus: if Mythical's former ally tried to assassinate our leader, then surely we could do the same to him.
I'm gonna tell Mythical, I'm like, hey, I'm building this farm. I need your help. Oh, for this farm, I need you to come down tomorrow towards these coordinates. I'm like, hey, so I'm not there yet, but I did set a portal stasis chamber nearby. So if you do find that, I need you to flip that. Here's the thing: it's gonna trigger everyone else. Is gonna trigger mine, Luminous, Troy's, Infinites, and Commanders, and we're gonna go in and ambush them.
The assassination plan was a great idea, and the Society started planning for the big day.
What if you literally just put a stasis chamber and then like a a smoke sensor, so whenever Mythical gets close,
Oh, hell yeah.
then we just put it next to his
As soon as he
base,
lands,
as
all
soon
those
as he
all
spawns.
pop out like yeah.
But in a last-minute decision, the Society later argued that this was unnecessary and simply gave him a 5-episode ban from the server.
I don't think if it would have been a viable alternative, because we knew from, I believe it was season 2 or 3, PvP was definitely, in my opinion, not the right answer. Banning, on the other hand, was the smart temporary decision.
This would lead to much international criticism directed to Quinn, the only one with administrative powers on the server, as Mythical did nothing wrong, only threaten them. It happened, nonetheless, and probably avoided a massive war. Within that span, a lot of smaller things did happen, though. Quinn upgrading his sword for the first time since 2021, Infinite got a new base made, and stole from his own ally. Technically, Quinn accidentally massacred his own bee farm, but most importantly, an anonymous major strike let Quinn's house get demolished.
Look at
What
that.
the hell?
Look at that. Look it up. Look it up. Look up.
There was suspicion on several people, but no one ever claimed responsibility for the attack. We chalked it up to some kind of natural event, like a charged creeper explosion, but the possibility of a rebellious terrorist attack is not impossible. A small period of peace followed, but soon, tensions would rise again because of this. Quinn made a world leader, a flying machine which infinitely duplicates TNT. He insisted that it would only be used for mining in society lands. But it was not a secret that it could be used for deadly bombing runs in another war. Knowing this, the newly unbanned Mythical wanted to destroy the machine, denying them access to the diamonds and its military power. To keep anonymous, he first baited Troy into shooting it with a flame bow.
Oh, no, Troy, don't you hit TNT.
But failing that, he just flew up top and broke the machine.
God, what the
Get
fuck?
to the shit. Get to the shit.
It reminds me
You
only.
broke my machine.
What are you?
Oh no.
Dude, okay, yo.
That incident sparked fears of another war, but the SMP trundled on. The perimeter was made, Netherite was mined, but no huge war came to end the server. In fact, the end of 1.5 came from within. The economy was cutthroat, and many had to find inventive ways to get rich. This included Buttcheese's pathetic attempt from earlier, Quinn's surprisingly efficient farms, as well as when we added the Silk Touch spawners mod to the server, and there was somehow pig spawners, which made those who had them tons of money.
I just got the second big spawner of the game.
I'll buy it from you. I'll buy it from you right now.
Another thing that made one specific player rich was the player head. Quinn had very briefly added a bounty hunting plugin to the server, where killing a player drops their head. Or at least this mess of pixels that's supposed to be a head. As you can see, it was buggy, and he removed it from the server soon after. Troy was the guinea pig who got the first player head and found out about this. And while it was forgotten about for a long time, this became a one-of-a-kind item to him. He tried selling it off to Infinite in exchange for building him a large new base, but Quinn, whether out of genuine idealism or to sabotage the sale, added player heads back in.
16 is a decent amount. It's not too much to, fuck up the economy or whatever.
I was gonna get a whole massive base for one.
Yours is different, I'm telling you.
There's no value for the one I have.
This was a betrayal in the eyes of Troy and Infinite, from the man who, all those years ago, saved this server from its economic ruin. Combined with waning interest in the server and the looming 1.19 update causing many chunks to require a reset, this aging server was finally put to rest. Quinn's artificial inflation killed the Comb SMP. The same way Mythicals had all those years ago. Season 1.5 did not die in vain. It was by far the largest and grandest server, hosting an entire year of active play. But at this point, everyone knew it was time to move on. a new server was made, and it seemed to be catching on quick. The intense world building and lore of 1.5 was off-putting for some, so combined with the new release of Minecraft 1.19, many longtime veterans came back after months. One notable player at the start of Season 6 was Liam, Quinn's brother. He was a freelancer, being allied at various points with various groups, but going it alone if either side got too dicey. Mythical, as a condition for his second unban, was not going to be invited to this season. So Liam started his own new nation, acting as the main opposition to Quinn and his still thriving Pumpkin Society.
So Quinn, we feel like he's just extremely butthurt about starting a new server, and we feel that he's probably gonna try and start a war.
The war and competition was real, and it was heating up. Troy found what we all thought was Liam's nether portal, leading straight to his base. You guys can maybe tell there's another, and I'm not sure where it leads. I had a suspicion this was Liam's. And while it was a dud, the real competition would come when an end portal is found.
What? Oh my god! Yeah, look in chat. They literally found a stronghold. They found a stronghold.
So they could go to the end. This caused the Pumpkin Society to scramble to get to the end, to get the dragon egg before Liam could. But
I don't know. You want to try?
Sure, why not? They gathered resources and even tried to get Liam kicked for lag.
Like a reset the server, right? and I'm acting like it's lagging too.
This didn't work.
Oh
no! But Liam made one crucial mistake. He didn't take the opportunity to explore the End Islands for elytras or shulker boxes.
Wait, no! They left! They left! Look! I'm just going off the screenshot because I see wood, so I'm assuming they're home. Petty? Nah, but we'll be the first to get elytra.
And shulker boxes. Go! Yes!
Hey, careful.
Wait.
There's a ship.
Liam and the Society argued non-stop about the nature and ethics of this operation, and tensions were already reaching a boiling point. But soon, that wouldn't even matter anymore. Something new would happen to the server, which would cascade into an endless blame game. Joey Coconut? Who's that?
Who the hell is this? I have no clue.
Infinite's like, yes. He's... yes. What do you mean he's yes? It was you, bro.
So you're gonna it wasn't me.
When he didn't upload a video, that's
Alright, so...
Quinn. I remember Liam, he would say, someone's username would be there. You tell him, control this person, and you send us out a server. That was kind of unrelated towards really any of us. That was more fault on Thomas for not putting a whitelist, even though we told him, repute me a whole bunch to do it, and he didn't do it. So, that I wouldn't say that was necessarily a huge power move right there or anything, but for me personally, I think that was just a total coincidence. The fifth column came on our server. The fifth column! Everyone fucking leave! The fifth column! 2v2T! Fucking leave the server! 2v2T went onto our fucking server.
2v2T players.
Yeah, you can't predict that. Literally, they've literally gone on and griefed one of the Minecraft developers. That's not even a joke.
These hacks were the last straw, and Season 6 effectively collapsed as the two sides were bitter rivals. The server was still officially running and some things happened, but Commander, now de facto leader of the opposition, had refused to play on this world. Instead, he had his own interesting idea to bring everyone together. Throughout the SMP, Lack had been a big proponent of adding mods to the servers. He had the idea in some capacity as far back as Season 3. But in the middle of what was, to some, an agonizingly long 1.5 with a rigid balance of power, he had the perfect excuse to bring mods to Comb SMP for the more experimental crowd.
A crab. You will die, little buddy. Give me your meat.
Throughout it and Season 6, he would work behind the scenes on his own mod pack, the Comb Pest Control. It had not much in common with the main lore of Comb SMP, except the name and a few of the players and factions. Essentially a zombie apocalypse mod, it included its own lore, gameplay, cool new structures, and even things like voice chat and guns.
Hey, watch this.
He's got a sword.
The idea was novel at the time. It wouldn't get major support, but had its own dedicated fan base. The development and playtesting kept going on, which shows the love and attention he put into this idea. It is the only branch of the Comb SMP which still exists today.
Oh shit. No, tornado, please! Tornado, please! Oh my god.
Believe it or not, Commander Lack didn't just make one new server. He made two. A public support poll showed that a majority of people still preferred the main server to stay vanilla. So once Season 6 died, a debate sprung up. What do we do now? Well, the Season 6 world was still quite intact after the fallout. Quinn was in favor of keeping it, but the opposition argued that new chunks from 1.20 would be hard to find and wanted to reset altogether. So both sides just gave up on reconciliation, which as a fair warning made the season system very convoluted and complicated around this time. Initially, Commander's server, which we call Season 7, got praised for its new chunks and more players, but some things would make people uneasy. Far-off chunks were weird, Mythical was allowed to join after being absent from Season 6, and operators used creative mode to troll players on the server.
I wouldn't say necessarily hacking, I would say more cheating-wise, and yeah, that was pretty annoying. I would say that was, like, I wouldn't even do that. At most, I would spectate, but even then, I wouldn't even do that, so...
But the worst part was the server's format. Anarchy! Those who were uncomfortable with constant PvP and griefing would slowly migrate back to the Season 6 world, which by then was basically just Quinn and Troy exclusively. To reflect this difference, the server numbering was changed from Season 6 to Season 8. Soon after the horrors came to light, though, Infinite became the first defector. His example would set a precedent, and more players began leaving. There was some drama on Quinn's world, too.
Oh, infinite! Oh. You fucker! I told you, fucking creeper! You were fucking moved!
I didn't do anything.
Infinite, I told you, fucking creeper, 50,000 times! You didn't say even do.
But the opposition was losing popularity fast. Season 7 was basically obsolete, and once it was officially abolished and the server reunited, Season 8 on the Season 6 world. Yeah. Season 6 and 8 were on the same world, so you could call them parts of one whole, but also they're distinct because of the player count dropping and going back up. And also when the server did reunify, there were several internal issues and many were not content. Was that still part of Season 8? Was that Season 9 perhaps? I mean, there was also a small rollback you could count as a Season 9, but compared to the real Season 9 that we're going to be talking about, is that After the insane hot mess of the server split, both sides saw fit to reconcile. And while that world still existed, even the society was confused and bored of that world at this point. And since Commander Lack retired his server a while ago, negotiations ensued. The society and the gold carriers agreed to start an entirely new server, and they went all in.
New SMP, Home SMP season.
For like the millionth time.
Okay, but
Season
Clint, this could be our final one. This is our final one.
The finale.
However, some tensions would linger. Liam had been uncomfortable with massive farms creating lag, since the mobile player Infinite was hosting the world. But Quinn and the Society extensively relied on said farms to make up for their, at the time, lacking numbers. A compromise agreement would ban the use of, quote, high production farms, but the specifics of what that meant were fiercely debated.
Some of the farms lag. Like the Shulker farm and stuff, and the Guardian farm, like sometimes they can lag really bad.
Guys, I don't think arguing about it's gonna. It doesn't matter as long as it doesn't go
As long
past 5,000.
As long as it's like
Dude, okay,
super far
Infinite,
away.
Infinite, listen. Items per hour does not equate to lag.
The debate on how large, how complex, and how far away from civilization a farm needed to be was avoided in the early game by a second, even more radical agreement. For this final server, no one was to ever leave the others. Everyone lived together and worked for a common good, which, at least in the early game, made every established faction practically irrelevant. This second rule would get criticized by Quinn, after a server glitch showed everyone just how laggy it could get.
Move your boat! OC! Bro, OC's boat is gonna break.
God,
We're gonna have, like,
it's frozen.
Yeah,
Same,
everything's
bro.
frozen.
My game dead ass froze.
Dude, I can't even move.
According to Quinn, quote,
This is why we should have just gone and done our thing for a bit, then figure out a base. Fuck's sakes.
we continued on in a tenuous balance, significant differences pulling us apart, but one common core belief. This was the final world. We even got as far as beating the Ender Dragon together.
He's dead.
Damn, dude, that was quick.
dude.
And while everyone agreed the dragon egg would be shared, Quinn was not shy in expressing his involvement.
Let's go! Thanks to me!
As well as shunning everyone in the post-game.
I'm gonna go get an electricity, yo.
Yeah.
I did it first!
However, the last straw was when Quinn's netherite got stolen by the other players. At this point, we had decided not to share inventories, yet Quinn was fed up about the rules we had placed and decided to pack up his stuff and run away. For the first time since Season 0, Quinn, leader of the Pumpkin Society, officially became an independent actor and worked solely for his own good. Quinn would always keep teasing us about his base, but never, ever revealing the coordinates. So much for transparency and cooperation. Thus, getting to Quinn's base and exposing him, as we had done with Mythical's hacking before, became a badge of honor for everyone.
To the threats, because look, if you do that, you're gonna start drama. All of our bases are gonna get destroyed because of one of your decisions. The server's gonna die off because all of our bases are gone.
So no one would make teams or make their base somewhere.
Infinite did not squander the opportunity, making good headway.
When he started building his house and stuff, he would send pictures occasionally. Saved him, and I looked at it, I want to say hundreds, if not like thousands of times. Not just me, but Liam as well. And I used all my tricks, and I thought I came up with the chords. and I thought I had done it, but not exactly. I believe I was around 1,000 blocks away.
And eventually, the day came.
When I made the nether portal, I realized that I was kind of close. Because they had the same biome, the terrain was starting to look a bit familiar, not quite there yet. So I knew at that point that I was probably going to get it in the next week or so.
This blew everything out of the water. Quinn was very annoyed. While technically he had broken the rules by moving, he claims he
left because you guys steal from me when I was in that little village area, you know, before I moved.
Other misfortunes were happening too, like when Daniel was attacked for stealing a sword, and later, a devastating server glitch lost Troy his entire inventory. While he would recover from this, the server was basically dead in the water after then. It being unstable and very laggy, combined with de facto anarchy after Quinn's retaliation, authority broke down, and Season 9 came to an end. Initially, many thought the server could recover and move into 2024. The mobile player Infinite even set up the next world, Season 10, and initially, it was appreciated. Surprisingly though, the agreement that this is gonna be the last one was actually respected by Quinn, despite the controversy, leaving only minor players as the relatively small core of Season 10. This season wasn't long at all. It didn't even have a single episode online, but for its few players, it was still appreciated. Not because it was the grand modern revival it was planned to be. The server wouldn't stay alive longer than around a month and a half, but because it was the means to an end. Rarely anybody had joined, but those who did finally agreed to a peace, finishing what Season 9, and really, the whole server up to this point, had started. Players tried mini events and such to make it interesting, but by early 2024, Season 10 was officially abandoned as well due to inactivity. After nearly 4 years, 12 seasons, and countless memories, wars, laughter, and fun, the home SMP had come to an end.